Alright, so I figured I'd talk about something other than Call of Duty today for this video. I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite games ever since I was a little kid, since about 2001. I think I was about 12 or something, 11. I was playing Diablo 2 on a really, really crappy PC. I think it was dial-up connection as well. It was either dial-up or it was like Earthlink DSL. It was really, really slow internet. It was like less than 10 download speed. It was something crazy. It was a different time, though, you have to understand. So my neighbor introduced me to Diablo 2 and gave me a copy of the game. I don't know if he had the actual disc and just lended me that with the code or what, but I remember I was basically able to get into Diablo 2 for free, and I played it. I think I had two characters that were pretty much level 99 back then, because I used to play the shit out of the game, and I would play it so much my parents would get really mad at me, and I would basically be sleeping in school and stuff. This was in 5th and 6th grade, and then eventually I got a laptop or something, and I remember that was the end of my fucking school situation. I would stay up all night on that laptop playing Diablo 2. I remember I played Diablo 2 so much over the course of a year or so that laptop wound up breaking. The motherboard wound up overheating. Motherboard failed. So then maybe a year and a half later, they released the expansion pack, Lord of Destruction. And then that was around the time when the laptop broke, shortly after that, because I was just going crazy on the game. And the thing is, since then, there hasn't really been any other RPG games that have been as in-depth with the item system and stuff like that. When you think about it, there's only a couple viable items and builds and stuff at the highest difficulty of that game. But there was so many items. Not everything was viable at the highest difficulty level, but there was just so many items. And that was the beginning of the loot system. I don't know what Bobby Kotick's role was in the whole RNG system of that game, but hey, maybe he had a role in it too. I don't know, but I mean, that game had a good RNG, and it wasn't it was competitive PvP. People would still PvP, and they would try to compare their builds against one another, and people would try to find out, okay, what's the best cheese to use against other players and shit like that. But for the sake of dungeon crawling and looting and all that type of stuff, that game was so on point. I know that Path of Exile is probably the closest thing we have this day and age to that, and that might have more viability on the builds and stuff like that. But Diablo 3 dropped the ball. Diablo 3 was not nearly as good as Diablo 2. It just felt super watered down. It still only had a low amount of builds that you could get for the highest level, but the itemization system, everything, it just felt really lazy in comparison. I think after the recent press conference where they announced Diablo Immortals, or whatever they said, the next Diablo game that was going to be on mobile devices, I think they might cut that game. I think they might chop that game. They might still wind up dropping it, because I imagine if they put certain amount of man hours and money into it, it would make sense for them to release the game. But I don't know, who knows, maybe they're going to have it a free to play mobile game and then have microtransactions. That would probably be the best way for them to do it, because honestly, mobile games, they can sell, but they're going to make more money selling the microtransactions and having the game free like they do with COD Mobile. But everybody really wants Diablo 4. People aren't checking for a Diablo mobile game. I'm sure a lot of Diablo fans would play it, but they don't want it in exchange for instead of 4. We'd rather have 4. I'm pretty sure everybody would agree with that. So my whole train of thought is, with everything going on with Call of Duty lately, basically they're going to be relying on their either for sure earners, like World of Warcraft, which I'll talk in another video, talk about their subscription service and their loyal fan base and everything like that. They're going to have to rely on things like that. They're going to have to rely on things like microtransactions and things like the hype of a new game for Diablo, just like they relied on the hype for Modern Warfare last year, and it pulled through for them. Nostalgia bait is a very strong thing. I think the thing that was so beautiful about Diablo 2 in particular, maybe 1, I didn't really play it as much, and by the time that I actually tried it out, the graphics seemed so outdated to me. Probably like Diablo 2 would seem very outdated to kids these days. But the thing that was so beautiful about it is you would have a clear goal. You would know either you wanted to level your character up or you wanted a certain item to complete a certain build. And I feel like that's kind of lacking in video games today. Today, there's a lot of things to do in the game, but there's not anything that's really like enticing to go after that one thing. You could maybe say that camos and things like that on Call of Duty are probably the closest thing Call of Duty has. Maybe like prestiging and things like that to show off. But as far as the things that you really do personally for yourself, I would say probably camouflages is the closest things, because that's the thing that you really see when you're in the game yourself. I think Diablo 4 could save Activision not only by increasing their stock prices and garnering game sales, depending if they choose to do a subscription service, for like $10 or $20 a month or something. I could see that happening. And it's the same fans that get World of Warcraft anyways. So I'm sure they would probably pay twice what they're paying a month if they really love Diablo. Like, if they really love Diablo 4, they would pay the same amount that they're paying for World of Warcraft and either play both or maybe even drop World of Warcraft and play Diablo. More than likely, if they're a big-time fan, they'll play both of them, and they'll be paying for 2 different subscriptions that are going into Activision's pockets. But hey, let's see how they handle the game. If they really make a great product, I'm sure the fans will have no problem supporting. If Activision carries on in the spirit of Diablo 2 and really brings that gritty, dark art direction and a deep loot system with different viable builds and an in-depth game with beautiful levels and enemies and replayability and all these things without there being just gimmicks and just like a big cash grab, basically, if they make a world that's immersive, that people can play together in, that you can have fun in the progress of the game, and then even once you beat the game, once you beat the story, have things to do, kind of like those greater rifts that they had, but have maybe something that's a little bit more engaging for the average user. I think that they could be really in a good position. And I think if that same spirit of artistic direction and stuff and just passion for the game, if that could bleed over into other areas of the company, Activision would be in a much better spot. Everybody have a great day.